Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Laptop Trader on YouTube. This is going to be again another follow-up to uh, for my June 2023 video series. This one is going to be very short, I promise, but I also think very helpful to you guys after the previous two to show you just how quickly I can either in the evening after work or in the morning before the market opens. I can again go through my lists and sort out and segregate and focus on exactly what I'm looking at this week. So that's just the logo. Here is a quick um, disclaimer I'll leave up here for 10 seconds so everybody understands this video is only for information purposes only on YouTube. And without that, let's get right to the charts and the chart lists here. This is under my watch list on barchart.com. And we can see here that, again, this is sort of alphabetical order. This is my list for this week. I'm not going to show you guys a longer term chart because that's on the previous videos. So here's what happened with Amazon um, yesterday. So I just generally, for these shorter time frames, I generally just use like a 3-month daily chart. So yesterday, Amazon um, Thursday made a new high. Then Friday, this candle right here made a kind of like an equal high and then sold off on Friday. And then on Monday, it kind of sold off again. So this Amazon is pulling back in price and time. So we're just going to wait and see if that gives us a decent buy setup on Amazon. Then I go down the list, right? Angie, that still looks like it's consolidating slightly higher. That looks like a pretty good opportunity in Angie, lower priced company. Again, this is only technical analysis. So if you find something fundamentally or newsworthy on these stocks or earnings is coming up, that you're going to have to do your homework on that too. But just from a technical point of view, this is just kind of like a go or no go to stay on the list. So here's an ETF called Block, BLOK. That to me looks good, like that's starting to turn up. On Monday here we showed a green candle. That's kind of what I'm looking for, that my buy setup, that green, red, green, right? Here's another one, green, red, green, close above that high. And so sometimes when you see these in a row like this, here's another one, 1, 2, 3 right there. See that? That 3-bar turn, another 3-bar turn, and now another 3-bar turn. When these start to add up like that, a good spot to buy is over this third bar right here, this high, or above one of these middle bars. So we're in a decent buying area right now on Tuesday morning on BLOK. Next over, we've got this company. I don't know what they do, BRTX. That has a closing breakout on Monday. So that means here on Tuesday morning, you could buy over that high. These are homes. There's definitely some resistance at this point. You can see this big red selling right here above about 2150 again, second time. And then a third time on Friday it sold off, and then on Monday it sold off a little bit too. So this one, I would probably put this on next week's list. So one of the advantages to having a platform is you can create these lists. So here I'm just going to go to this watch list function, and I'm gonna move this from this week's list to next week's list just by checking these boxes. So see here now it's on next week's list. So I'm no longer interested in watching this one this week. C, which I think is Citigroup. Again, we've got this pullback, another pullback. So this is still in kind of an area that looks like it could go lower. So Citigroup, I would move. I didn't get the move I want on Monday, so I'm going to put this on next week's list. See that right there? Next week's list. So we're going to take that off. We're no longer going to watch that the rest of this week because we're looking for the best opportunities now. Next one, ClearSign is still It had such a big move Friday that on Monday I expected that to pull back, so that can stay on the list. Clear One Company did not continue. It actually sold off pretty heavily on Monday, but that also kind of makes sense. So that can stay on the list. Comcast Company is consolidating above the highs of this green bar. That could be a possibility still, so we'll save that. Cinemark Holdings still consolidating. It's been consolidating since over a month, since April 11th. So that is in a holding pattern there. Canadian Pacific sold off pretty good on Monday. Did not continue higher and break out, actually broke down. So this one I would move just based on that to next week's list. And so I would just go through all these, and based on technical analysis, I would say, okay, this was higher here, higher. And now Monday I put in this green engulfing bar, closed over Friday's high. That could be a really good entry on that one on Corsair Gaming. So that is a keeper. We'll keep that in there. Commercial Vehicle Group, also a closing breakout on Monday. So that's a buy at that price. That looks higher. DoorDash pulled back last week. Friday put in a kind of like this. If you were to look at this without this red bar here, you'd have this 1, 2. We expect this bar to close higher than that. Instead, it closed lower. So DoorDash right now looks lower, just based on that bar. So this is going to go to next week's list. We'll take that off of these other ones. So we'll just use this tool to keep going through it. Dropbox, I was expecting, kind of seeing if that would go higher. It's actually pulled back a little bit on Monday. I'll keep that on the list. See what happens on Tuesday. Delcast Systems, that looks higher. That didn't have a closing breakout. It did have a breakout, an all-time high on Monday with a bottoming tail, so that actually looks higher, even though that's red. That could be still be a decent entry on that one. Symbol DCTH. DraftKings closing breakout, although it has a topping tail bar, so that would be you really have to get a nice strong candle here on Tuesday to, in my opinion, to consider that. But it is a closing breakout over this area, but there is some sellers present above that. That's not really the best one. We'll keep that on the list. See what happens today. Drive, another ETF. Looks like electrical vehicles are starting to heat up again since April, late April. So that looks like that's going to continue. So if you like electric vehicles, that looks positive for that industry. ELTK, I don't know what they do. This one's too far too fast. I was looking for a pullback, and this one, but that is just rocketing higher. I don't know what they do. That's going to go on a different list because that's getting really extended. So we're going to put that on, keep that on next week's list. Okay. EXPI. That is closing breakout on the XPI. Nice strong candle over that. It's at resistance on the left. I'll show you that on a different chart. It's kind of at an area right there that's not bad. I wouldn't consider that significant resistance. I would say that could give you a nice target up to here. It's about 18 bucks. So 15 to 18 bucks would be my target on EXPI. That looks good. Again, you can see how I kind of zoomed out there, a little bit longer time frame to get that information. Fortune Brands, now that looks lower. Now we had a closing breakdown Friday with another lower candle on Monday. That looks like that's going to probably consolidate a little more through price and time, so we're going to move that to next week's list. FDN, which is an internet ETF, that looks higher. Looks like it's making new highs and a closing breakout with that 1, 2, 3. So FDN, I added to that position on Monday. And then Fiserv, it's still kind of consolidating here. That can stay on the list. FOR, 4-star group, that looks like that had broken out, and then Friday put in a new high with a red candle. That didn't scare me because it had 3 higher lows, but now on Monday it put in a kind of a reversal candle. So that is look like that may not work this week. I'll keep it there and see what happens today. GKOS, Glaukos Corp. That is still consolidating in the top of this range. So if that turns around and breaks out, that could be a possibility. I wouldn't really be scared to buy this breakout. It is a little bit extended, but you could start to buy a few shares and then see if it breaks out. GoCo stands for Go Health. That looks positive, more like a 1, 2, 3 continuation. I would have to see what happens today. Google still showing relative strength, made a new high yesterday. That looks good. GRMN, Garmin. That looks good. Closed yesterday with a closing breakout and a new high for Garmin. Like that company. Heritage Global. That looks continuation higher. So put an order yesterday to buy over this high, you would have been filled, and you would already be in the money on Heritage Global. That definitely looks higher. Harmonic Company is still consolidating above this green candle. Small pull, two-day pullback in price, Friday and Monday. That actually still looks okay. IAA still consolidating. That's probably not my favorite chart. I'm going to move this one to next week. I pull back so much that we need to reconsider that one, so that can go to next week's list only. ICE. Intercontinental is still consolidating. I would comment on this, even though it's consolidating, it's actually consolidating over all these bars here. It did make a new high in last, I think, Monday. Looks like it could be making another turn up. So ICE actually looks pretty good there. A little bit continuation trade going into next month. IMVT, that looks good. There you got a 1, 2, 3, and then big closing breakout on that bar on Monday in Unovant. So if you put an order to buy, you had put an order to buy over the high of this candle, you would be filled. You'd be a couple dollars in the money on that one. There's a South American company that is still pulling back. We're going to move that to next week's list only. Take it off this week's list. JCI. That looks like that is probably going to keep pulling back. We'll see what happens. We'll give that another day. Cook, Johnson Controls, Cars, Electric Vehicle and Future Mobility ETF, closing breakout over this area. That looks good. So that's another check mark for the electric vehicle sector. Even though it was in this downtrend, it looks like it's turning up. So That looks okay. Kimball still consolidating. KR Kroger closing breakout, new high in Kroger, so I like that. You like a big grocery company? Lee Auto ADR, that even though that closed red on Monday, that looks pretty good. You've got this breakout sideways action here. Now you have a pullback in price of 3 days, and now we're starting to get higher low, another higher low. So even though it's closed red, think about it. It actually gapped up in the morning on Monday, was a green bar at one point, and then kind of sold off, and then was bought up again and actually closed above these previous 3 bars. So that's actually not a bad candle on Lee Auto. So that looks good, especially if it gets over this new high. So if I was going to place an order on Lee Auto, I'd place it over about 30.05 as an entry for Tuesday. And if you get filled, you may catch a move on that one. LPG, that looks higher. That's more like a 1, 2, 3. It's already closed above this first candle here. That looks higher. Dorian. Mara Company, Marathon Digital. That looks like it's still consolidating in a range, but still a possibility. Stay on the list. Meta Company, new high on Monday, but with a topping tail. I would have to see what happens today to consider an entry into Meta. But that's been one of the strongest companies this year. So a lot of times these companies just keep making new highs. So that looks good over this area. It's a pretty good area to enter actually. It's consolidated long enough. That should continue higher. MJ, which is a marijuana sector ETF, that looks good. Um, this ETF has had a rough ride over the past 2 years, so it looks like it's in this bottoming process on the longer term time frame. But it's kind of tested this area once. It's testing this area again. That looks like that could start to move higher. We also have larger size bars, larger volume in this area. That looks like if you're a bottom feeder, if you like bottom feeding, this could be a pattern to consider for that, but I would watch my position size. MOR, that looks higher. So you can kind of see the steps going up. Closing breakout. Now you kind of get that 1, 2, 3 pattern on going into Tuesday. MU, Micron Company, that looks good. Maybe it's gotten a little bit extended. Pull back in price. We can see what happens on Tuesday with MU. Netflix, kind of setting up kind of that flag pattern. So if this comes back a few more days and then turns up, watch out for Netflix. NextGel had a closing breakout, but a kind of a range expansion candle. I would not buy that here because that is it's a really big candle for that stock. I would expect that to keep pulling back. I'm gonna keep it on the list just to watch it. Opera ADR, that's a closing breakout on that one. That looks positive. Oracle had a closing breakout on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday. Could have bought over the high on Monday. High was 103.07, and Monday we put in a new high at 103.10. So kind of a weak new high. Let's see if Oracle pulls back another day or two before entering. Oracle. Open text. I'm already in this one. That is I added yesterday to that. The high on this new high was 42.35. Yesterday we had a high of 42.12. So you could purchase or add over Monday's high. I already added over Friday's high for myself. OTEX. PAGS, kind of a weak new high on PAGS. That's not a real definitive candle. That you may want to consider something over that, especially if it becomes a nice wide range bar. PAGS. Palantir, that is still consolidating in price over Thursday's high. PNR, Pantera, that is still kind of slowly moving up. Kind of a weak new high Friday and then a lower low Monday. That I would have to see a little more info. PRG, same. RDN, same. Y. That I could consider a purchase over this one here over about 1895. RELY. Riot looks higher. That's a nice, good, solid green candle on Monday. So you can purchase that over the high on Tuesday. Riot Company. Rapid 7, that looks lower. I didn't get the turn I was looking for, so that's going to be moved to next week's list. Just like that. When this process is done, then I will, my list will just update after I close this platform. Shopify looks higher, making the turn there in Shopify. SKX Skechers actually looks lower, so that's going to go to next week's list. Did not make the turn. It looks like it's not going to. So we'll just stop watching that for this week. Soleno looks higher. Closing breakout, closing new high. SMH semiconductor sector looks higher, but it's pulling back. Let's see if that makes the turn on SMH. Sterling Infrastructure looks higher. Had a breakout new high, pulled back slightly. That looks higher over those two candles. That'd be an entry over about 44.50. TJX companies looks like it's still consolidating. Higher, low, or equal low on Monday, but a big red candle, so that would need to think about that one. Tencent Music looks lower. I did not get the candle I was looking for, so that can be moved. Trade Desk. I believe I added the Trade Desk yesterday. Closing breakout, closing new high over this area. Trade Desk, TTD, that looks higher. Uber looks, I don't like that candle. That's a new high breakout, but it's not closing breakout. I would need to see more information on Uber if that has now gotten too extended. UIHC, closing breakout, closing new high. That looks good. Looks higher. UIHC. Unprovident Corp. That looks like it kind of had this breakout. Now it's losing steam or losing pressure. That looks like that's going to pull back. So I'll keep that on for another day. That may be coming off tomorrow. Upbound Group looks lower, weak new high, red candle followed by another red candle, top and tail. That looks like that. It's probably going to pull back price. Let's take that off of this week's list. Just like that. So it took a little work to set these lists up, but I think you guys can see once they're set up, it is a time saver instead of looking through 1,000 stocks or 500 stocks for the week. I only look through, 25 to 50 tops, and then I start sorting these out even more as the week goes on. This just looks higher. Um, if you didn't get in on Monday, I would probably wait to see if this offers a pullback opportunity. It's really getting, you're up about 6, 7 days in a row there. That's probably a wait and see if that has another pullback opportunity. Vertex, that looks like that. Should have went higher in a stronger way. I don't know. That looks good. That's still kind of a closing high above all this. If it can't get over this candle here at about 2240, I would probably consider even raising my stop because that looks like this doesn't look that strong to me. It's got some buying pressure, but it looks like it could pull back a little bit. But that one is kind of in a little more neutral than I expected. Telecommunications looks like lower, right? So you got this uniting candle. Now we've got another red candle on Monday. That looks maybe consolidation or lower. We'll take that off this week's list. I think there was better opportunities. VREX, that looks pretty good. Consolidating, kind of making this turn with a closing candle. It's green. It has a little topping tail. I would buy over that high of 2240. Vishay Technology looks like a wait and see. VTSI Virtua Systems, that looks higher. Closing breakout, closing new high. Wendy's looks lower. If I showed you this about Wendy's, I got a little too excited, but when we look at this 5-year chart, it's not real impressive. I think the one thing to consider with Wendy's would be 1, COVID, 2, rising interest rates, and 3, just overall economy, and is Wendy's preferable over other fast food operators? And I think when you look at this long-term picture, that's pretty sideways. I know they do pay a dividend. I would have to look into our sales growing, same store sales growing, is revenue growing, and our earnings growing. I know they do pay a dividend, but if you want to buy a cheaper fast food operation versus something like McDonald's, I think this could be a possibility long term. But I think right now, short term, this is coming off of my short term list. We're going to put this on. I need to create a longer term list, but we're just going to move it off of here for now. As far as Wendy's goes, I personally like Wendy's. I think they're fine. But sometimes markets will favor certain companies like McDonald's or others over Wendy's. So that could be a more homework situation for Wendy's. Home builders, looks like they are starting to sell off. That is coming off of this week's list. Put that somewhere else to let that cook. Couple more for you. Technology sector is still looks higher. It's giving you that continuation pattern of the 1, 2, 3. did have a closing pretty much a closing breakout. It closed right at the high of this first one, so that looks higher. XLK looks higher for now. Zedge is did not give me the breakout candle I was looking for. It actually pulled back a little bit, so we'll continue to watch Zedge Inc. Finally, Zoom. Zoom still looks higher. It's had this big run. That looks like that's going to come up and test 74. So short-term trade between where it's at now and 74 is a possibility. It is extended, so a pullback would not be surprising in Zoom. So that is it for this video. I hope that helps you guys out. I hope that helps you with the process I use. I hope that shows you just the amount of opportunity that is available right now to you. And I think if you can have some personal financial discipline, you can get some money for investment or trading. I think there's some definite opportunities in the market right now. So we will wrap this. I guess this is going to be 3 of 3 going into June. Again, thanks. I'm Phil with the Laptop Trader. This is my email, laptoptraderphil@gmail.com. Or if you know me, you know my other email. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching. And we will see you later on. Bye.